What is up, guys? I hope all you guys are having a really good day. I myself is having a really good day, but I still got a lot of the sinuses up in the nose, and so if I sound like a Muppet, I apologize. It is not my intention. I want to sound decent and not terrible. Also, if I cough, I apologize, but I do not think that's going to be an issue today. At least I hope not. But we have a really good show. It's going to deal with some more serious topics, I guess. The modern day isms that we deal with in our world now, because we just can't let it not be in our entertainment. And so they'll be talking about a little bit of the Captain America drama, a little bit of the Spider-Man drama, and a little bit of comic book drama. But I'm going to sprinkle in a lot of fun, a lot of speculation, and kind of balance it out, hopefully, with some really fun topics. Like we're going to be talking about, X-Men and who is going to be overseeing that, possibly. We're going to be talking about what possible characters could have been in Creature Commandos. And we're going to be talking about the new comics that are going to be coming out tomorrow. And so I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you stick around to watch the whole show. But guys, without further ado, let's get into the very first story. So, ironically enough, the Captain America story, the Spider-Man story, and the comic book story, we're going to be talking about a little bit about a company called Rippaverse. To me, all these stories have a little bit of a thread that connects them together in a unique way that I think, as a fandom, we're going to have to maybe come to an understanding, maybe understanding each other, but maybe have a more realistic approach into the future about how we, not only are we creating stories for all audiences, but also what are people not willing to stand for. And I think it's going to be a complicated situation, but maybe not as complicated as people think. And so, if you haven't heard, Anthony Mackie was, at some screening or some event, and he gave his opinion on what he thought Captain America represents for him. And without me putting words in his mouth, we're just going to hear from the man himself. So let me just pull this video up. Oh, that's him.
For me, Captain America represents...
I'm going to supersize this. Actually, let me make sure that my audio is coming from the right. It is. It's coming from the right place. So we're going to listen to what he has to say real quick, and then we will discuss.
For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term, America should be one of those representations. Like, it's about a man who keeps his word, who has honor, dignity, and integrity. Someone...
Okay, a man who keeps his word, has honor, dignity, and integrity.
Who is trustworthy and dependable.
Trustworthy and dependable.
It's kind of... This is kind of like an aspect of a dream coming true. When I was a kid, all of us as actors, I believe, want to get back to that day before someone told you no. When you look out your door and you see a 5-year-old kid with a stick and he's slaying dragons to save the princess in the tower, that kid really believes there are dragons out there. That stick is really a sword and he's really trying to save that princess. And then one day somebody told him, no, there are no dragons, that's not a sword, and that princess is not there. And all of his little dreams were dashed. So, as an actor, I feel like our job is to get back to the day where we see that dragon and we slay that dragon to save that princess. And that's kind of what this movie was for me.
Okay. And dreams. Okay, so honor, dignity, sticking to your word, clearly being a good person, the American dream, having a dream. What does that not have to do with America? And I think what this person says, Adrian Curry, who used to be a supermodel, And I'm going to skip the very first part she said, but she says, I hope this bombs into oblivion. I sat on a panel with the real Stan Lee telling a crowd that Captain America is the living embodiment of the American spirit. This guy is an insta-clown. Now, I'm not going to say that Anthony Mackie is an insta-clown, but I do think he put himself in a very bad situation for this movie. Now, some people, I saw someone with like watery eyes, like this was really impactful to them. And I get what he's saying in some ways, but to say that it has nothing to do with America, I find is really silly. And this is coming from someone who understands that our country can have a lot of problems, have a lot of missteps, have a lot of things that they don't do right. But Captain America, it's literally not only a part of his name, but it's literally the essence of the character is the embodiment of what America should thrive to be. And so I just think this is just bad media training. I think this is just not thinking through really what he's saying. You know, it just seems like he says things and then maybe his media training isn't as good as it should be. I think he sometimes even contradicts himself sometimes, because if you get further into some of the things he talks about, you know, just characters and what characters mean to him. And, you know, one thing he says I kind of appreciate, and the one other thing he says I'm kind of like, okay. And it just doesn't seem like he really thinks through what he says. And to say that, you know, he thinks that this character should really have no connection, it doesn't represent America, then why would I want to see this movie? Why would I want to see this movie if it has no connection to what the conversation of America is? And the reality is it probably does have that in some elements, shape, or form. But maybe he's upset with the way that the elections have gone, so he wants to separate himself from that. I don't know. Would he have the same tune if Kamala Harris would have won? I don't know. I really don't know. It's not my place to say, but I do think this was a very silly thing to say. And I think there's a lot of people now that are not going to want to go see this movie and will legitimately not go see this movie. Because there's a difference in annoyance and apathy. And apathy has already happened for a lot of people with Marvel. And the thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to give your audience apathy. You don't want to make them hate you. Because if they not, just don't even care. Hating you, they may still go see the movie. But if they just don't care, they're not going to go see the movie. And I asked some friends of mine about this film. And because they say, you know, they shared it in a group chat of mine. And one of my buddies said, I already plan on not seeing it anyways. And then I said, you know, that I was going to make a video on it. And I said, you know, just curious, if he would have said something more patriotic, basically total opposite of what he said, would that have made you more interested in seeing the movie? And then my friend goes, probably. My interest is already dead, but that would have helped. And just so you guys understand, this was a huge Marvel fan, okay? This guy was a huge Marvel fan. He loved everything that Marvel was putting out. Everything. And you have a chance to maybe bring him back in. To maybe pull him back into what you guys are doing at Marvel. And this opportunity killed it. It killed it for him. It killed it. But I've also noticed that there's other people that did kind of like, you know, thought it was nice because it fit their narrative. It fit what they believe. But what they believe is not necessarily what Captain America represents. And if Captain America represents America, which might be the good and the bad, then we shouldn't be ashamed of that. That's something to be proud of, and that is who the character is. And so to try to deny that just seems off. But I think I said earlier, I think that has a lot less to do with maybe even really what truly Anthony Mackie totally believes. And it's an actor just blabbing things out and maybe doesn't have the best media training that he should have. And so maybe I'm giving him a little too much grace, but that's kind of where I'm at. I'm still probably going to go see the movie because I want to commentate on it. I want to talk about it, and I do hope it's good. But it won't surprise me if this movie really hurts. Really hurts. And the funny thing is that some of the people that were going to give it a chance are now going to really cut it off just from this. So, very disappointing to hear indeed. But guys, let's talk about something a little more positive about Marvel, because I think Marvel hopefully could be going the right direction when it comes to making some of their movies, which is the simple thing of having a plan. I think having a plan is important, and I think Disney has really struggled having a plan. And one of the ways you can have a plan is by having someone over your movies, having someone over a certain part of your movies, making sure that they run well. Now, James Gunn almost did this for Kevin Feige. James Gunn was almost over telling all the space adventure stories within Marvel before the controversy happened with James Gunn. And then eventually, he went to DC, and we see what he's doing there. But it seems that Kevin Feige has found a new group of guys to do this. So this is a rumor, okay? This is a rumor. But it's saying that the X-Men could have a solid leadership behind the scenes. And so they're saying that the Russo brothers signed to oversee the X-Men film within the MCU, promising a top-tier production. Okay. So, the arrival of the X-Men in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is one of the most highly anticipated moments for the franchise, and the expectations heading into it are sky high from the audience and critics alike. With so many powerful characters and great story possibilities, the options are endless for the official X-Men film within the MCU. So, let's get into where it actually has the news. Okay. According to industry insider Daniel Richman, I think it's Daniel RPK on X, the Russo brothers have signed a new deal with Marvel Studios to continue their work relationship. They are expected to oversee multiple new projects within the MCU, one of which is eagerly awaited X-Men movie. Anthony and Joseph Russo have been heavily involved in the MCU over the years and are seen as trusted names to oversee such an important project. So it seems that they're going to be overseeing the X-Men movie and maybe overseeing some of the, it more so seems like they might just be overseeing that. But no, it says multiple. They are expected to oversee multiple new projects within the MCU. What it sounds like they're going to be over the X-Men, or going to help cater over the X-Men when it comes to the MCU, which would be really cool. I like that idea, because we need some good leadership over these characters. Marvel's got one real shot. They come out, they do really good with Secret Wars. They come out and do really good with that Doomsday War. They come out and do really good with these movies. Then they have a shot to kind of do a little bit of a reboot, bring all the characters back together, and do something really, really, really cool if they want to. And we need new leadership. We need better leadership, and we need people who will make sure that a script is done before they tell a story, before they do a movie. Now, they may make changes to it as they're filming, but I just feel like there's only been a few people that have made sure that they've told a good story, and they've made sure that they brought the budget, stuck to the budget they were given, and maybe even gave some of the money back to the studio. and that was like James Gunn and like the Russo brothers. Okay, I'm sure there's some others, but those are the main ones you can think of that are like, okay, these guys, brought their money back. They did what they were supposed to do. They did their job, and they stayed on budget. And we need that, within these movies. I know there's a little bit of he said, she said about Captain America, the new one coming out, but it's been a known thing that Marvel, they blow through their budget. And so, I don't know. And I know, for example, the Russo brothers, they've already talked about this in interviews before. They're huge X-Men fans. And they said the one thing that could make them come back was definitely Secret Wars, but also telling, stories about Wolverine and some of the X-Men characters. And I think these guys would be a good group of guys to help tell those stories, because X-Men, if we can get good people to tell these stories, they're going to be bigger than the Avengers, guys. We all know this. We all know that X-Men could, squash the popularity of what the Avengers have been before and what, are now. They're that big of characters. At least they used to be. And I believe they can again. So I really think this is good news. I'm interested to hear about the cast. I've heard some rumors, things about Gambit and Shadowcat and a few other characters. I think that's too early to actually know that for sure. But it's very interesting, and I'm very optimistic about the future of the MCU. I just think we got to get there. I think this last Captain America movie is the last movie of that, old era. I think we're in a new era, and I'm very hopeful for what the future of the MCU has to offer. But what about you guys? Do you like the Russo brothers? Do you think somebody else should be over these movies? Do you think this is going to help Kevin Feige steer the ship a little better to control everything that's going on? It really seems like Kevin Feige really needed to have delegated a lot more than maybe he's had, or maybe he delegated too much. I don't know what the truth is there, but do you think someone like Russo brothers will be a good fit to help Kevin Feige steer the ship, steer Marvel back to a direction that we all want to see them go? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, guys. Let's get back into a little bit of the drama and a little bit of the I need better PR, or, are we in a turning tide? Are we in a different place now? And we're just trying to get the audience. We're recognizing we're losing the audience, and we're just trying to get them back any way possible. I'm going to take a drink real quick, if you don't mind. 1 second. And that has to do with Spider-Man. Now, if you guys don't know, the new Spider-Man show is coming out tomorrow, maybe tonight even. And I'm really excited about it to an extent, because this is going to give us something to talk about. And there's some things of it that look really good, and some elements of it that have me a little worried. And, the Osborn, the race change thing, I don't know. In some ways, it's like maybe it's just a beaten dead horse. Someone in the comments, when I reacted to to one of the trailers of the Spider-Man show, kind of told me, hey, man, I'm from Africa. Maybe I should be the person that's totally cool with this. But he's like, it bothers me when you change the races of these characters. I just want these characters to be who they are. And it feels a little bit, it feels like they're trying too much to try to get my attention instead of just telling a good story that I would appreciate, if they just kept the characters who they were. And sometimes I can be a little bit of a hypocrite about it, because, you have if you change Jon Stewart to a white dude, I'd be mad. If you change Hal Jordan to a black dude, I would be mad. I'd be aggravated. But growing up, watching Daredevil, the guy who played Kingpin was perfect at the time to play Kingpin. Now, nowadays, I don't always know if it's truly always based off merit, But ironically, and maybe just because of the comics and the way they were drawn, Harry Osborn, Norman Osborn, the way their hair looks and some other things, it's like, okay, I guess I could see a black actor really doing a good job with that character. And so it didn't really bother me as much as maybe it should have. And I understand there's some hypocrisy there because I do feel differently depending on the situation. But supposedly there's more characters than that have gotten changed. Supposedly there's, what is it? Why am I blanking on the Lizard? Sorry, Lizard. Supposedly Dr. Connors is going to be a black female character in this show, which is why the comment of this actor is kind of interesting, and I'm kind of confused why he said what he said. Okay? So let's get into this. Marvel's newest animated series, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, is set to premiere its first 2 episodes tomorrow, January 29th. And the show will feature Hudson Thames, returning from What If, Season 1, to reprise his role as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. Thames' career has largely been quiet since making the Marvel debut a few years ago. He's featured in 1 episode of Ghost, the hit CBS series streaming on Paramount+, but that's been his only role before he prepares to suit up as the web-slinger once more in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Collider's own Mike Thomas recently sat down for a chat with Thames, and he asked what it was like having a chance for a fresh take on Spider-Man in a world featuring characters never before seen in the MCU, like Norman Osborn and Lonnie Lincoln, and his answer might shock you. I thought it was awesome. I mean, my biggest fear was that it was going to be annoying and woke. And it wasn't. And I was like, yes, this is great. It's so well written. Like, it feels real. And then I'm the oldest of 5 boys, so I feel like I kind of know what's happening in their lives and in high school. And it felt like it was doing that justice. Okay. So he gives his opinion on what he perceives the word woke to be. And to be honest with you, I don't really, he views it as a dog whistle for racism and sexism. And then I would use it as a term for being overly preachy. Okay? And then other people would use it as a word for being awake and aware of things, of knowledge, right? But really that word has gotten to be a warning sign for preachy. It feels preachy. It is preachy. And the perfect example I would give, and maybe some of these actors should start using the word preachy instead of woke. Maybe that's what it should be. Maybe that's what they should be saying. But people are used to the word woke. People use the word woke every day. And we all know what everyone means when they say something's woke. We all know. It's the shoving of maybe a leftist belief system down your throat. And making it the forefront of the story. Okay? We all know what that, when someone usually says that word nowadays, that's really what it means. And maybe it's a shame that word doesn't mean what it was originally intended to mean. But when someone says it now, we all know that that's what it means. It means just shoving in this thing and that we don't really care for. Now, what's funny to me, it's going to be interesting to watch the show, but like I said, supposedly Dr. Connors, the Lizard character, is not going to be Dr. Connors from the comics. It's going to be this female black woman is going to be playing Dr. Connors. To me, that would fit the narrative. It's like, why just have normal Dr. Connors? Why change Dr. Connors? Like, why would you go out of the way to do that? What's funny is like that bothers me more than Dr. Osborn or Harry Osborn and Norman Osborn, because maybe in my head I can see Norman Osborn and Harry Osborn for different reasons, whereas the Lizard, it's so far out away from the original character, it just seems very silly. But he says it's not woke. It seems to have some attributes of that. So part of me wonders if he said this because they realize that the audience has gone so far away from that, has gone so far away from the preachy messaging that the Marvel movies have done recently, and maybe are trying to get that audience to come back and be like, look, let's just tell them it's not, and then they'll watch it and they'll be fine because the majority of the show really has nothing to do with that. I don't know. Or is he saying, hey, I thought this was going to be a super preachy show. I saw they made all these changes to the characters. I didn't know what to expect. But then I go in, I do the show, and they really don't shove a lot of the political stuff in our face. They really just tell a good story. And I really enjoyed it, and I thought they did a really good job. You know, whatever it was, you can tell that there's a lot of people on Twitter that are either not happy with what he said, or are like, wait, but isn't it? Didn't you do that thing with some of these characters? Didn't you race change some of these characters? And for them, that feels like it's too woke. And for the other characters, or for the other fans, they're going, wait, you know, if you're going to be saying that, oh, well, you're a person that, if you disagree with me, then you're an evil person. So I don't know if this was the wisest thing to say, because to be honest, I don't know if you're going to get that audience who didn't really care about this show anyway. I don't know if you're going to get them to come and watch it. Maybe. But on the other side, you have these other people who basically, if you just simply disagree with them, they're ready to write you off. I heard people calling him the next Dean Cain, you know. Dean Cain's a cool guy, but they're calling him the next Dean Cain just because it's like he may have a little bit of a different opinion than you. It's like, let's write him off. Let's forget about him. He is not somebody we want to deal with at all. And so I am kind of curious how this show's going to go. I wonder if people are going to give it a chance either way. Or maybe this was the excuse for everybody just to go peace and dish out. I don't know. I'm going to give it a shot. I believe in giving a show a fair shot, and I'm going to give it a fair shot. I'm going to be either watching it tonight, if it comes out tonight at midnight, or I'll be watching it in the morning. But I'm going to give it a fair shake, and I hope that it's good. And I hope that it has something cool to say. But hopefully this actor doesn't get canceled. But it definitely seems like this whole article was written to really go after this actor. That's what it felt like. It felt like to me that's exactly why this article was written, was to go after the actor. And people are taking it for other reasons. Some people are going, okay, maybe I'll give this show a shot. Some people are going, nah, I'm still good. You say it's not woke, but I clearly see the things in the show are woke. And then there's other people who are like, oh, you disagree with me on this one topic? Okay, well, I'm writing you off. I think you're a terrible person now, and I'm not going to give you a chance. So I don't know what the total, like I said, I don't know what the total purpose of this was, but I don't think it was written with the best intentions. But what about you guys? What side are you on? Are you on the side of, what, this actor disagrees with me politically on something, so I'm not going to give him a chance? Are you on the side of, I don't like watching something that's super preachy, so to hear that it's not super preachy, I'm going to give it a shot? Or are you someone who goes, I hear what he's saying, but I just don't trust it. I don't think it's something that's going to be something that's worth checking out, and so peace, I'm good. I'm kind of curious how it's going to go, because supposedly they've already greenlit a third season, so we're going to be getting 3 seasons of this at least. I think it's fair to say that if this show does not do good, we're probably only getting 2. But supposedly we are getting 3, so, if it's good or not, we'll have to see. But, guys, what do you think? Let me know your thoughts down below. All right, the next thing we got to talk about is James Gunn. Got to talk about James Gunn. James Gunn, we talked about yesterday about the controversy, the face controversy of Superman. But this one's a little bit more fun and a little more speculation. And this deals with who we could have seen in Creature Commandos. And this person writes on Threads and says, hey, James Gunn, really enjoyed Creature Commandos. Like with the Suicide Squad, did you go through a number of different characters for the team before going with the ones that you chose? And which characters did you consider for the team early on? And James Gunn says this: I definitely considered Wolfpack, and especially Man-Bat, one of my faves. But I knew I wanted to tell Weasel's story, so it felt like too many rabid and fuzzy characters. I considered Vincent Velcoro, but wanted to choose a creature far outside the usual roster from another part of DC, so I went with Dr. Phosphorus instead. I also considered Solomon Grundy, another favorite, but was pretty set on Frankenstein. So it's kind of interesting to hear like who he was thinking about. And, people were wondering why he didn't use Wolfpack and instead he used Weasel. And people are like, well, I guess he already used Weasel before, so it just made sense for him to use Weasel again. But people were wondering where Wolfpack was specifically. I think Man-Bat would have been a really cool character. I think that character would have been really awesome. I think Vincent Velcoro would have been cool, and he's a more OG character. But I think it makes sense that he used Dr. Phosphorus, and Dr. Phosphorus kind of covers two of those things. It kind of covers a character that wasn't usually in Creature Commandos, but also covers a creature that isn't the basic ones you always see when you think of your classic creatures, like your vampire, your werewolf, your Frankenstein character. He is a little bit different, and so I like that. I think it's safe to say we'll probably never see Solomon Grundy in Creature Commandos. You can never say never, but for me, if you're going to have Frankenstein probably come back, which I think he will, it just doesn't, because he'll continue to pursue, Lady Frankenstein, the bride. I just don't think that we really are going to ever see Solomon Grundy ever really pop up in Creature Commandos, at least as a character that's a part of the team. Vincent Velcoro, I do like the idea of them changing different vampire characters. Nosferatu seems like she's going to be the next vampire character they're going to use, so they're probably going to not use Vincent Velcoro. And I think it's safe to say if they're going to use Nosferatu, I don't see them using Man-Bat as well. But it is kind of cool, who they thought they could use. I am kind of curious eventually if they'll ever bring in Wolfpack. But, we'll have to see what happens in the future. But I would personally, that's the character I would like to see. Wolfpack, just because he's originally part of the Creature Commandos, I think he fits for that, to be a part of that team. I would like to see Wolfpack part of the team, but we'll have to see what they do. But guys, what about you? Which character in this show would you have liked to see? Who would you have liked to have been a part of the Creature Commandos? Who are you glad they didn't use? And, did you like the team that was presented into Creature Commandos anyway? I'd be curious to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. Alright guys, now for the next topic. Let's talk about something that's a little bit more on just the business side, a little bit more on the heated side, but I think it brings all this together when it comes to people just not being able to get along and making everything so political when it really doesn't need to be. Captain America maybe has a little bit of politics in it just because it deals with America. It's Captain America. There's a little bit of patriotism in there. There's fun conversations you should have and be able to have. But really, these stories shouldn't be just shoving politics into everything. And I think what's starting to happen is because these stories had shoved politics into it so hard, that now the fan base is highly politicized. And so it doesn't matter the left-leaning, right-leaning, the fan base has become highly politicized with each other and can't even let businesses function. And it's a real shame. And I just kind of want to read a little bit of what has been happening to Eric July. Now, if you don't know, Eric July has a company called Rippaverse, and they make comics, and they're really competing and doing very interesting things. When it comes to how would you call their business, because it's not necessarily crowdfunding. They make the product before they ever put out the pre-orders. What they do is they sell their books they do. So they're kind of like indie publishers, and they sell the things they do, but you can pre-order, and instead of doing like one issue a month, what they do is they get a collection of the full story, and they release these volumes of stories. So this is their very first one. There's Isom 1, and I only have 3 right now. I am behind on my Rippaverse. I have to admit, I am behind, but I have Isom 1, I have Isom 2, which that front art is really, really good, but the cover art is really good. Isom 2, and then I have Alpha Core. And so if I had to rate these, I'd probably, rate the ones I have. I'd probably put Alpha Core number 1. Then I would put, I don't know. Alpha Core, Isom, I would put maybe those somewhere in the middle, and then Isom number 1 I would put as the bottom one. But I did enjoy these. They're not always perfect, no comic book is, but I do enjoy these comics. I do enjoy reading them, and I do need to catch up on the rest of the Rippaverse, because I do like what they're doing, and I think it's really inspiring, and so I'm going to have to catch up eventually. But Eric July, he was having a lot of projects he was planning to do, and instead of putting my words over his, I'm just going to read what he had to say, and then we're going to discuss, because I think what he said, there's a lot of truth to it, and it's just a shame that, how political things have gotten, and how, we can't even let these businesses function anymore. This is a real shame. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into this. For the sake of respect and professionalism, I will not name the agency involved. As many of you know, the Rippaverse has a mountain of projects coming down the pipeline for 2025 and beyond. This creates a lot of opportunity for artists. We recently started communication with a decently known Western comic book agency that manages a lot of solid talent. Some of his talent is very well known. At first, they were enthusiastic about this opportunity. This is especially applied to those looking for work at the moment. We eventually assigned about a dozen artists on a 15-plus projects. This included pencilers, inkers, and colorists for both covers and sequential art. Some of these projects had already kicked off. So these guys are writing stuff. He is providing them an opportunity to get paid, to make that money. And we'll see what's about to happen. Today I received an email from the agency head that they are pulling all of their artists from their various projects. Why? Because, I quote, they became conscious of some controversies. I didn't ask what those controversies were, and it is unimportant. There's no sense in trying to work with people that don't want to work with you, which I think is probably true, and I think it's probably the biggest lesson that we're going to learn from all this, is that if someone don't want to work with you, they just don't want to work with you. But why do they don't want to work with you? For him, it can't be important. He's got to keep going. He's got a business to run. But for the audience and for us, I think we know why. It's because he doesn't have the right belief system that they want him to have, which is a shame. Which is really a shame. This delays several projects. I wish them well and will not do anything to spite them. I bring this up as a reminder to you all. We've seen a lot of success, but we are still up against it. Though the Rippaverse leaves its politics at the door, the individual politics of people like me, Chuck Dixon, and others will always be held against us. We all know what the acceptable politics are in the Western comic book industry, which is anything. It's like anything that's not leftist is not allowed, is basically what's allowed in the Western comic book industry. Which, again, is a shame. We need to get back to the day where you can have a Denny O'Neil and Chuck Dixon working together on a comic book. We need that to happen. That said, some of it isn't just a left versus right issue. We always have people contacting and besmirching our business to our vendors, partners, and anybody that dares to say anything positive about us. Some of these will even claim they're anti-cancel culture, which that's another issue. I want to do a special video on what Comicsgate should have been, and maybe eventually I will do that, because Comicsgate should have been like a Shonen Jump type of thing, in my personal opinion. It should have been something where it really should have been based off merit and telling a good story, and really has become this thing where a group of guys just kind of try to control and dictate what people buy and purchase when it comes to the indie scene. And when Rippaverse came out, they were really encouraging and really kind, and then it got toxic and more toxic and more toxic and more toxic. And I'm not saying that maybe Air July didn't have anything to do with that and had no fault in that. I'm sure there was some fault there as well. But it definitely got way too far, got way too extreme, and they just took things way too far. And it's a constant thing. It's a constant thing. Like, even going on Twitter, it's like, I think most people nowadays probably find out about the Rippaverse about the people who constantly complain about the Rippaverse. And most of the time it has nothing to do with story. It's just really wanting his business to fail. And I imagine that has to be difficult, where you're getting attacked from all fronts just because either politically they don't agree with you and they want your business to fail, or maybe politically they even agree with you a little bit or agree with you some, but they want your business to fail because you're doing better than they are. I think that's a sad situation to be in, and I just think it's a really cruddy thing to do to other people. And this is why he says this. This is why we typically only contract and work with Westerners that are close in proximity. They're either already fans of Rippaverse or they're professionals that know of and support our vision. They are mentally prepared to handle whatever will be unfortunately thrown out at them simply because they work with us / for us. Everybody else are Easterners and South Americans that are completely disconnected from a lot of the nonsense and cultural problems that plague Western entertainment. Despite all this, I look forward to giving some hungry artists these projects. The Rippaverse will continue to grow despite the challenges or hurdles. Let's be great. And that's a good way to end it off. That's a really good way to end it off. And I just commented on there to try to be a little supportive. And I think this kind of rings true as well. I said, let the brave succeed past the gates that hold so many away. May the evil roll down the very hill they want others to stumble down. And may the cowards look through their bars to see what they could be if they only had courage. Cheers, good sir. Excited for your future. And I am excited for the Rippaverse's future. They just hired Gothix to talk about the content that's coming out. Kind of like she's basically hired to do the same thing that DC has done. If you go to HBO Max's channel, they have this whole thing where they have Koi Jandro. They have 2 other people. I'm blanking on their names. And I checked it out. It's okay. It's fine. But they're basically doing a podcast to hype DC, to hype the brand of DC. And that's basically what he hired Gothix to do. I think it's a really good idea. But it is a problem I think is going to continue to plague, at least for the next couple of years. It's going to continue to plague DC, Marvel, all these things, is that they allowed their businesses to get very political. And now, even businesses that try not to be political are going to get smashed and attacked because of their politics. And it's just a shame that this is continuing to happen. And to me, these stories connect. If you look at the Captain America story, if you look at the Spider-Man story, they're all reactions in different ways, but they all come down to the same poison, which is the current dayisms. We should be able to talk about big ideas in these stories. I don't think philosophy and the psychology, you can have those conversations even about modern day things in these superhero stories. You can even have political conversations in these superhero stories. But clearly it has made a fan base very toxic and not enjoyable. And I hope that everyone can back away, and I hope in the future we can bring in a little bit more unity into this world we live in. But technically, Rippaverse is competition. If Rippaverse does really good, he starts to compete with, to me, he has competed and is maybe even higher up than a lot of these companies like Boom and some of these other studios. Is he above Marvel and DC? No, but he's not trying to be. He's doing his own thing. But anyway, it's just a shame that that's happening to his company. I just wish him the best. And supposedly there is good news. Supposedly, even though he lost this agency and lost these artists, a bunch of artists flooded his account today and were like, hey, we want to work with you. And it seems like they're going to get a lot of new artists opportunities that maybe aren't a part of some of these agencies. So congratulations to the Rippaverse team. Guys, if you want to check out some of their stories, it may fit something that you would want. They have a lot of cool different heroes, a lot of cool different things. I'm behind, but I'm excited to check a lot of things out, especially the Horseman. Horseman is something I'm really, really, really excited to read. I've just been behind on buying some of their books, but I definitely encourage you guys to check them out if you so choose. So, on to the last thing, which will be just a quick conversation about what's coming out tomorrow. Tomorrow is Comic Book Day, and so we just want to have a conversation about what's coming out. So, guys, if you're interested, you got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle number 6, that's coming out. I'm behind. Basically, here's the story for me on all these comics. I'm behind. I'm behind. So, there's going to be some things I do want to read, and I do plan on reading, but again, like I said, I am behind. So, I definitely am going to eventually check out the new Ninja Turtles. You got Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, something I do need to read. I'm going to check that out as well. But some of those issues, I think those are just different editions, variants, because I do believe that we've already had that first issue has already been out. DC's Lex in the City number 1, it's a one-shot. It looks kind of interesting. I guess it just depends. I don't know. I may check that out. I'm not sure. You got Deadpool number 10. You've got Green Lantern 19. Again, behind. I'm currently reading John Stewart's run of Green Lantern. So once I read John Stewart's run of Green Lantern, I'm already on issue like 15 or something. 15 or 16 of Jeremy Adams' Green Lantern. So it's not going to take me super long to catch up. I hopefully might catch up tonight. Hellhunters. I've heard Hellhunters is really good. Hellhunters and Hellverine. If you guys have read that, let me know. I am curious about both. But I've actually heard Hellhunters is pretty cool. And if, it's World War II, you bring in like Bucky Barnes, Wolverine, and a old Ghost Rider, man, count me in. That sounds like an awesome time. Hornsby and Halo is coming out from Image. That's issue number 3. Ice Cream Man. Ice Cream Man is something I have not read, but I've heard everybody brag about how scary and creepy it is. So maybe eventually I will check that out myself. You got Kill Train number 1. You got a couple of different special edition comics. The Untold Legend of Batman number 1. You got Masters of the Universe Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What? That is something I will buy the trade of eventually when all those come out. But that would be a fun to read. But that would be something I want to read in like one sitting. So Turtles of Grayskull sounds really, really fun. I can't wait to check that out. Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu, as what everybody's been saying, is really, really good. Power Fantasy lost me in the first issue. Talking about being too preachy. To me, it was I want to be Watchmen, but I will never be Watchmen. That's how I felt. I may give it another shot, but the first issue kind of lost me, and just felt like a leftist's fantasy. That's what it felt like. It felt like a leftist's fantasy, and just wasn't interested. Was not interested. Power Lords #1. I have no idea what it is, so I don't know. Maybe I would check that out. I just don't know what that is. Psylocke. Psylocke #3. I probably won't be checking that out because I've just been behind on everything X-Men anyway, so I probably won't be checking that out. Redcoat, I do want to get eventually, but I think I'll just wait and get a book of it. That's probably going to be all the things that Jeff Johns is doing with Ghost Machine. I've heard all of it's fantastic, and I believe it, but I'm probably just going to wait for the book because I don't have enough time. I do not have enough time. Ripperland #1. I just saw this today, but it's made me very curious. Is this Jack the Ripper? If so, I don't know, Ripperland. It just sounds interesting. I like the name, so I may actually try to check that out. I may have to drop some money on that and check it out. Sabretooth, The Dead Don't Talk, issue #2. Looks cool. Like I said, I'm behind on all my X-Men stuff. The last time I saw Sabretooth, he was getting swallowed in Krakoa. So I don't know what's going on with him, but it looks cool. I mean, so I'm open. Seasons #1. Looks creepy. I like me some horror comics, so I'm open. But I do not know. Spawn, Sam and Twitch. We got Spider-Boy. Supposedly Spider-Boy's pretty fun. Have not read it. Probably will not read it. Star Trek. Defiant, 23, not interested. Star Wars, not interested. I used to love Star Wars, but I don't know. Star Wars, Jango Fett, Trail of Lost Hope. If there was one Star Wars book that would get me to read it, maybe it would be this one. Maybe that would be the story that could get me back into reading. The High Republic stories, though, I do not have any interest, but if there's some High Republic stories you want to read, there's a bunch of them out there for you. Static Shadows of Dakota, trade paperback. That sounds cool. That would be something I would want to check out. I have wanted to read some Static Shock, and so that would be something that I'd probably want to eventually check out, but $20 is $20, so maybe I'll wait a little bit. Storm, Life Dream #1 is going to be out. Superman Lex Luthor Special one-shot. We got Teenage Ninja Turtles #6. I think we've already mentioned that. Something I do want to read. Ultimate X-Men, I'm behind on all the Ultimate stuff. Ultimate X-Men did seem cool, but it kind of was like focusing on these one group of girls. And that was an interesting story. It just didn't feel like X-Men to me. I'm kind of curious if they have grown from that and are now telling a more broader X-Men story. You got your X-Men #10 comics, and you got some What If Galactus transformed Spider-Gwen. I still haven't read the ones I got, which was What If Galactus transformed Gambit and Rogue. But, if those were fun to read, then I'll check out Spider-Gwen. But if they were not fun to read, I will not check out Spider-Gwen. And lastly, they got a cool facsimile edition of X-Men 131. So, anyway, guys, just curious, is there any comic books that y'all are going to be buying tomorrow? Let me know in the comments down below. And with that said, guys, this is going to be the end of our show. I hope you enjoyed it. I know we talked more a little bit about the politics and stuff, but I hope we can get past that. That's what I would like. I would like to just get past that and look for a brighter future, which I think is ahead of us, where good stories can come without shoving all that stuff. And I do hope for better unity within the business itself. That's what I would hope to happen. And I hope that fans can appreciate each other, appreciate artists, and not necessarily throw them away just because they disagree with one or two different things about each other. We should be able to be more together than that. But anyway, guys, without further ado, wherever you're going, wherever you're doing, I hope you're having a good one. Peace.